This is The Gorge. This is a podcast where my friend Ben and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a game or game-related topic. This week, we're doing something a little bit different, and I am going to talk to Ben about the Fate Stay Night franchise for the, oh my god, are you ready for this?
Go for it.
Jesus God. The PC, the PS2, the PS Vita, the PlayStation 4, the PSP, and I think that's it. I'm probably forgetting something. I know
mobile devices.
Oh yeah, that's right, because Grand Order, which is part of the reason why we're doing this. Portable devices, because Fate Grand Order was just released this past Sunday for the iOS and Android. It's actually pretty good little mobile game. So if you want a free game that will definitely eat your time and make you really, really pissed off about the gacha rolls, go for it. So yeah, and I think that's it. I know Melty Blood has Saber in it and can be run on anything, so we're not going to count Melty Blood in this. So yeah, are you ready, Benjamin?
Yes. So you all might remember, like, months and months ago, we did a kind of a similar approach for the Kingdom Hearts series, which is she wrote up a bunch of questions, and then I tried to answer them to the best of my abilities by doing not, like, extensive research, but, like, just enough to refresh myself.
Right.
So, I'm doing the same thing on a series that I would say is either just as crazy or even more crazy. Like, there are a lot of, like, thematic parallels between Kingdom Hearts and the Fate series.
Yeah, except I will say, I think I'll definitely go on record and say that the Fate franchise is more batshit. Because of the sheer number of different timelines, different spin-offs, the number of people who are the same person, kind of like Sora, but a little bit more ridiculous. It's just genuinely very convoluted. The fact that it is tied to Kara no Kyokai and Tsukihime, neither of which I have consumed, so we won't be talking about those unless it's like in the most vague of ways. Because I know kind of the baseline idea of what Tsukihime and Kara no Kyokai are about, but that's about it. But because of that, because they're all contained in the Nasuverse, it can make it a really daunting experience for anyone, but it's kind of why I love it.
It is very, very, like,
dense.
That, like, it's the appeal, I think, of it is also part of just how, like, crazy deep it goes.
Yeah, I think so, like, for sure. Between the waifus and just the insanity of the lore, it has a certain kind of strange, evil, siren-like appeal.
Like, it's kind of like on the same thing as, like, Kingdom Hearts or, like, JoJo, where it's just, like, part of the appeal is there's so much stuff that's crammed in it that you can, like, tell anyone, oh yeah, and by the way, this happened in one timeline.
By the way, Thomas Jefferson is a giant lion man in one timeline. Sure! Why not?
So, well, you know what? That was actually, why don't we just go ahead and get started with that then? Because one of my first questions, actually, is, hey, Sarah?
Yeah?
Why is Thomas Edison like that?
I don't know specifically why Thomas Edison is like that, because Thomas Edison is not available for Fate Grand Order in North America quite yet, but it does kind of tie into, like, a general idea of, like, why is King Arthur a woman? Or, I mean, why are there so many gender bends? Why are there so many really crazy things about servants? Why is Iskandar the way he is? And the answer is that the Throne of Hero... Okay.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
We're getting started early. So, all servants in the Fate franchise are drawn from the Throne of Heroes, and the Throne of Heroes is part of Akasha. Akasha is it's the record of everything that ever has happened and everything that ever will happen, and all of its multiple branching timelines, basically. and it is kind of like the soul of the world. And if you have the right questions, we'll get into more of that in a minute. But the general idea is that Akasha is the Akashic Records. It is the record of everything in the universe, or on Earth, at once, and the Throne of Heroes is part of it. So the deal is that Akasha is weird, and the Throne of Heroes is weird because it is both. It draws both from the true history. So King Arthur was truly a woman, but it was misrepresented, right? And so that's why nobody knows it, because Artoria hid her gender when she was king. But it also draws on the public perception of someone, and that's usually where the Noble Phantasm's power comes from, is that and a hero is given strength kind of by the perception and their legend. That's what a Noble Phantasm is. So, it's the strength of their legend given form. That's why Sasaki Kojiro, the assassin in Fate Stay Night, is not a real person. Sasaki Kojiro never existed, but because he is such a part of Japanese mythos, Castor was able to summon him as her assassin servant, but it's also why he can't leave the steps of Ryoto Temple, is because he isn't like an actual person, so he can only stay in one place where the ley lines are very strong. Yeah. So more or less what it's like is that the person's existence gives them form in the Throne of Heroes, right, and the public perception gives them their power. Yeah, pretty much. That's a good way to put it. That's a more simplified way to put it, for sure. Sometimes the Throne of Heroes can manipulate the way a person looks, but sometimes it's the other way around. Alexander the Great, for example, is known to history to be kind of a short guy, and obviously Iskandar in Fate Zero is a mountain of a man. And so it's like the Throne of Heroes knew the truth about this person. Okay. So that's kind of why Thomas Edison looks the way he does. Great Grand Order is weird. What you're telling me about that then, yes, is that in reality Thomas Edison was a giant lion man. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. All right. I think Nikola Tesla is a girl in Fate Grand Order. Yeah, I've seen that one too. Okay. Yeah, but there's a lot of those in Fate. Really, that's a whole nother can of worms. Yeah, so, which actually, that kind of leads me to, another question about that. Oh boy. Is that, why are some of the heroic spirits fictional characters like those from the King Arthur myth, and why are some of them real people like Thomas Edison or Alexander the Great? Oh boy. Okay, because there's a lot to kind of unpack there. In the Fate universe, King Arthur was not a fictional person. King Arthur actually existed. Bedivere happened. Merlin was a real person. Because obviously in the Fate universe, magic is real, so Merlin can be a real person. Caliburn can be the magic sword in the stone. The Lady of the Lake existed, and her name was Vivian, and she could give Excalibur to Artoria. So in this case, the Throne of Heroes is drawing from actual history. Okay. Yeah. There are still fictional characters because, again, the Throne of Heroes can draw from mythos. So Frankenstein's monster is one of the servants in Fate Apocrypha, and is another girl. And so it can draw from kind of the mythology of people. And it can also draw from true historical figures, people who actually did exist, because Akasha, like I said, is the record of everything that ever has happened and will happen. And I think, but I'm not sure, I think that part of the reason the Grail War can summon mythological people is because of the influence of Angkor Mainyu, but I don't want to go on record and say that's true. I know that the reason anti-heroes can be summoned, like bad people can be summoned, because of the influence and the corruption of Angkor Mainyu, but I don't know if that also is why fictional people can be summoned. I Sometimes it's that, oh, well, this fictional person actually did exist. But, you know.
So on that, which does someone like, say, Heracles, would that apply? Was Heracles a real figure in the Nasuverse, or is he still a mythological being that is called forth?
No. Heracles existed in the same time as, or around the same time as Medea, who is Castor in Fate's Day Night. So both of them actually existed. That's actually considered the era of the gods. I don't know exactly when the era of the gods ended, but the era of the gods is exactly what it says it is. It's a time when the gods were real, when huge mythological forces existed, and magic was at its strongest. The story of modern Fate's Day Night is actually the story of a world in decline, and Nasu has a lot of really interesting... For the fact that this game is basically pornography, Nasu has some pretty interesting theories about kind of the modern world and its influence on nature, in this case represented by mana. But before the state of mana in the universe declined, the gods were real. Gilgamesh is legitimately a half-god. Medea and Heracles really did get their powers from the gods. So all of that stuff really did exist, and only as, like, human belief. Because, again, it's kind of like Persona 5. People's cognition affects the strength of the gods, and as people started to believe in them less, and as the idea of mana started to decline, the gods lost power and eventually disappeared, but the legends left behind by people like Medea and Heracles and Gilgamesh, those still remained, which is why you can obviously summon them from the Throne of Heroes. So yeah, Heracles is real.
Okay, so that's kind of like a standard, like, story of, like, taking a mythological world into the modern era of, right. Like, as, like, they're literally it's clap your hands if you believe, like,
right, yeah,
as you stop believing in them, their actual power starts to wane.
Yeah, and
okay.
part of it was that as the amount of mana in the world decreased, the gods kind of couldn't make those same huge shows of power, and then of course because of that people started to believe less, and it just became this ever-feeding cycle, so that in the end it was just the Maguses, like the Tosaka family and stuff like that,
right, who
could wield magic, or magecraft. There's a difference between magic and magecraft in the Fate series.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. No, I get that though, because like the difference between like there are other series that exist where there is a difference between two different types of magic of, like,
right.
For instance, in Dark Souls, I know that pyromancy is not regular spell casting.
Right.
Like, there's a difference between casting a spell of fire and using pyromancy in the Dark Souls world. So yeah, I get that idea of there being a difference between magic and magecraft.
Magic just to kind of expand upon this a little bit, magic in Fate is, like, the true magic. Magecraft is using your magic circuits that everybody was born with to make crazy things happen.
So Shiro uses magecraft, and like Rin uses
magecraft as well.
Oh, okay, they're both magecraft.
That's both magecraft. Magic is a higher, kind of a step above. It's a more advanced thing. Magic is used to do really impossible things. The hole that opens up over Fuyuki at the end of Fate Zero, and all that black sludge comes pouring out and burns Fuyuki to the ground, that is a corrupted form of magic. All magic in Fate its ultimate goal is to get to Akasha, which is also called the Root, which, as everybody remembers, in the beginning of Fate Zero, is that really long, shitty exposition scene, because Urobuchi doesn't know how to write exposition. It's that part where Tokiomi and Rise, Kirei's dad, they're walking in a circle around Kirei and just expositioning at him.
Yeah. And just talking.
Literally walking in a circle and talking for like 10 minutes because Urabuchi can't write exposition. He's like, listen, let's just get all this world building out of the way right now. And then once we're done, I don't have to explain this shit to you again because it's all at the beginning, you know?
And if you really want to, just go back and watch the first 10 minutes to remind yourself what's happening.
Exactly. Like, that's the whole, like, that's like the most infamous, like, it's the one thing that could really turn a person off of Fate, is like, if you start with Fate Zero, and you really shouldn't, like, generally speaking, you actually shouldn't start with Fate Zero, but I did, and it was, you know, it's fine, but
I've got opinions on that, like, which one should you start with, but yeah, but like, it is, like, if you were brand new to this franchise, and your first exposure is two guys walking in a circle and talking for literally 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You'll be like, well, I'm going to turn this off then.
Yeah.
I was promised fights and there have not been any fights.
I was told there would be fights here. I see no fights. Yeah, it's not great.
I didn't see so much as a King Arthur for 100 millennia.
And you get the money to go on the dope-ass saber motorcycle to get to the fun fucking part of the Holy Grail War. So yeah.
And they're all standing there with their hands on their hips. Boy, I hope we solve these murders. And nothing happens.
Yeah, that's the beginning of Fate Zero, as good as Fate. And Fate Zero is damn good. But I've got off topic. The whole point of everything is that mages want to reach Akasha, the root. And to do that, you have to use magic with a capital M. And so that's and to do that, you have to use some sort of like crazy advanced magic, and that's what the whole opening Fuyuki actually is, or opening over Fuyuki actually is.
So just like, in summary, like, magic is just like raw, primal, like,
yes,
this is the big stuff, and then magecraft is channeling that into a specific kind of lighter spell.
Yeah, magecraft is basically channeling magic across your magic circuits, or it's channeling mana through your magic circuits, and there are two types of mana in the Fate world. Because it's already complicated. Why not make it more complicated? It's fine. I don't actually remember what the name of the other type of mana is, but there are two types of mana. There is the mana that exists in the world that floats around, and certain people can make use of it because they have magic circuits. And then there's your own internal mana that is channeled across your magic circuits as well, but you just keep that in your body at all the times. And that amount of mana you are born with is set in stone. You can't do anything about it. Rin has a lot, Shiro has next to none.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another part of the ridiculousness of the Fate world building. Mm-hmm. It's really a lot of world building just so that Kinoko Nasu's OC can bang King Arthur.
Yeah, like, there's... It really kind of spiraled out of his hands, didn't it?
Well, that's kind of what Nasu's specialty is to just say a lot of words. Like, a lot. I really, like, this is kind of a tangent, but I really did want to get this off my chest. Kinoko Nasu says a lot of words for no reason in his writing. And I like Fate Stay Night. I've read most of Heaven's Feel. I've played Fate Extra. I've read parts of the translations of Extra CCC. I'm playing Grand Order. I've read parts of UBW and none of Fate because Fate is awful. It could be good, it's not. But Jesus God, Kinoko Nasu, I have never met a man who, I've never read the work of a man who has really so succinctly turned something that should be like one sentence into like 5 pages.
That dude loves to expound.
He loves his words, man. He loves his words and his overly descriptiveness, and part of what makes Fate kind of ridiculous is the fact that he has to, like, over-explain things sometimes, when it's like, no, Nasu, we got it the first time, we know what this is. He's like, no, you need to understand it. So then the wiki turns into this huge disaster of mess of information, because it's like, oh my god, you have to put all of it in there now, because of course it's all canon. Wow. I really needed to get that off my chest, though, because I have tried to start reading Fate Stay Night, like, all the way through, and I feel like somebody on our Fate Stay Night is now going to be like, you're not a true Fate fan because you haven't actually read all of Fate Stay Night. Shut up, it's a lot.
I'm working on it.
I'm working on it. It just takes a really long time. There's a lot of bad ends, and fucking Nasu and his writing, okay? Leave me alone, I'm only human. I've read Heaven's Feel. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Speaking of convoluted and ridiculousness like that, so there are... How are all of these series and timelines connected?
I knew you were gonna ask this. I knew you were gonna ask this. Okay, so... There are technically 4 timelines? 5, maybe. Most of them have the same shit. So the Age of Gods always happened. That's set in stone. Actually, it's really interesting. We'll kind of loop back around to this. Put a pin in Age of Gods and timelines and stuff. I'll come back to that. But the Age of Gods is set in stone. It always happens. And then after a certain point, the timelines start to diverge. Extra's timeline diverges sooner than all of the others. It diverges somewhere in the 1970s for reasons unknown. The canon timeline consists of Zero, Stay Night, and Hollow Ataraxia. You could make the argument that Fate Stay Night itself then branches off into 3 different timelines depending on the girl you pick.
For the sake of convenience, I want to just count that as one.
Yeah.
That is one group, and then...
It is one timeline.
What I'm asking is, like, everything with a different title in it, how are they all connected?
So, okay. So, we'll start with the original, is Fate Stay Night. It starts with Fate Zero in 1994. Then Fate Stay Night takes place in 2004, and then Fate Hollow Ataraxia happens almost immediately after Fate Stay Night. And then we have our branching timelines. We have Extra, which, like I said, we won't start with Extra. Extra's kind of its own thing. Put that away. We'll do Prismaelia. Oh boy, Prismaelia. Prismaelia is a mess for so many reasons. Prismaelia is a good concept and then just kind of lost its shit, but for the most part, Prismaelia fractured off in Fate Zero, where Kiritsugu decided to run away with Irisfeel and Iliasfeel, and then raised her as a normal girl in Fuyuki. I don't know what that means for the Grail War, because I didn't finish Prismaelia, because once Kuro Ilia showed up, I was like, well, I'm done. And, which sucks, because there's a lot of really good stuff in Prismaelia. Like, it definitely has one of the most badass iterations of Shiro ever. But it also has a lot of Ilia wanting to fuck her older brother. So I said, nope, I'm done. I guess I should have put a warning at the beginning of this. This is going to be kind of a little bit saucy, because
of the subject matter.
Because this is still based off of a porn game. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Which is why I dropped Prismaelia. It got a little too lowly bait for me. But it fractured off in Fate Zero, and then basically it was like Airi and Kiritsugu sealed off part of the Lesser Grail's power inside of Ilia, and then they fucked off to go travel and let Ilia live with Lays and Sala. And then there is Fate Apocrypha, which is coming out soon. And Fate Apocrypha is yet another timeline wherein before the 5th Holy Grail War, which is the one that Fate Stay Night is, the Grail disappeared and then turned back up, it's called Yigdal Millennia. It's like a cult kind of organization. They claimed they had the Greater Grail in someplace in Transylvania, and so the Mages Association, and one member of the church are sent to Transylvania to summon their own servants and fight Yggdrasil. It's like Yggdrasil and Millennia, and I don't know how to pronounce that as one word. So it's Yggdrasil and Millennia, so it'd be like Igmalini, whatever. So anyways, the Mages Association and the church send representatives to fight those assholes, and that's why you have 2 battling teams. How many is that now? 4? And then you could make an argument that Fate Strange Fake is a 5th timeline, but I don't know anything about it because it's a light novel. Actually, it's a light novel, by the way, written by the guy who wrote Bakano and Dur, which is interesting.
Yeah, I did not know that was the same writer. That might actually be interesting to read, then.
It is another really strange timeline. I don't know anything about it because it's only just started being fan-translated, so I haven't had a chance to sit down and read it yet. But it's another kind of strange Grail ritual, where they try to hold the Grail War in another part of the world, I think in America this time, but they fuck it up, and so they actually can only summon 6 servants. So Saber is not actually in Strange Fake, but Gilgamesh is.
Strange Fake takes place parallel to the 5th Holy Grail War, then.
I think it actually takes place parallel to the 4th Holy Grail War.
Okay, so to Fate Zero.
Yeah,
because if Saber is there, or Gilgamesh is there and Saber's not, then it would have to be the 4th.
Yeah, because he doesn't have his human body. He's still just like Gilgamesh, the archer servant. He's not, Yeah. So, that's all 5-ish, and then, then there's also Grand Order, which happens in its own timeline 13 years after Stay Night, and I can't speak too confidently about Grand Order because, again, I only just started playing it. But it is its own thing about time travel, and you're part of the Chaldea organization being sent back in time to stabilize little fractures of the timeline.
Which is my favorite preference for, any, adventuring series ever.
It's really, it's actually a damn good concept. Yeah, I'm actually really surprised.
I'm going to, if you're digging this, then I swear to God, I am going to just order the volumes and mail you new copies of Exiles, because I still really want you to read Exiles.
I know, I need to read Exiles. Soon, I swear, once Fate Grand Order stops taking my life. I finally escaped Persona Hell, but now I'm in Fate Hell. Shit.
They're not expensive. I can just buy them for you.
No, that's fine. Soon, I swear to God.
Yeah.
So
what that clears up for me is that I was under the impression that stuff like Extra and Grand Order and Apocrypha were all completely different timelines, and they were their own separate alternate realities, you know?
Right.
I knew that Zero and Stay Night and the one I always forget the name of. Hollow Ataraxia were the same timeline with branching points in there. I didn't know that everything else was also connected to the same origin point.
Yeah, everything is connected to the same origin point. And before we kind of get to the weirdness of Fate Extra, we can kind of loop back to what I said, stick a pin in it. So, Akasha, like I've said before, is the record of everything that has been and ever will be, right? So, Akasha can also keep track of the multiple branching timelines to a degree. Akasha is still a living thing, and it even Akasha has its limits, which is crazy. So what you get is this what is it called? What is that phrase called? I read it the other day and I liked it. I can't remember what it is anymore. It's basically a time lock where after a certain point, certain events in history become locked in time and cannot be changed whatsoever. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Like part of predetermined events. Like in Doctor Who.
Yes, it's basically the idea that after a certain point, things in history are so set in stone that they can never be changed. And that's kind of really interesting as well, and a lot of the stuff in the past. So that's why there are so... Because, branching timelines can exist in this version of reality, obviously. But because of, like, the time lock, it means that certain things are kind of always going to happen in certain timelines, and it kind of keeps the processing for Akasha to a minimum, which is really interesting to me. I think the concept of Akasha and the counterforce and the guardians and all that stuff, I think is really, really fascinating, because I love the idea that the actual planet itself is a living, breathing organism that is maybe kind of out to kill you.
Yeah, I really do like the idea of, like you said, the Akasha being, like, a sentient being that can make mistakes.
Yeah, it's not really... Akasha and the counterforce they're a reactionary force. They can't necessarily make mistakes. The counterforce exists for the sole purpose, and you know this, but I'm gonna, for the people listening out there in the universe, Akasha and the counterforce exists for the sole purpose of keeping humanity from basically killing itself. That's why Archer from Stay Night is the way he is. Anytime it kind of seems like we're gonna hurtle toward destruction, the counterforce dispatches a guardian or does something to keep people from basically killing themselves and the planet all off. That's actually why magic, like higher magic, exists in the first place, because the idea is that if a single human could access the root, right? The root of all knowledge in the universe, they would become so powerful that they themselves would become a force of nature that could destroy the world. So, the whole reason the Holy Grail War exists is it's a ritual meant to bypass the counterforce and take you directly to the root.
Right, okay.
And I don't know, I just think that's really interesting. I kind of got off on a tangent there, but it's okay. There's a lot of tangents like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because Fate is intense, and there's a lot going on.
It's very intense, and there is always a lot going on. And again, this is just fan fiction so that Kinokunasu could dream about fucking King Arthur.
I will never, like...
I know!
Because, like... When you watch the Unlimited Blade Works anime that came out, like, recently, like, you're watching it and it's cool and it's great, and then you get to the part where Arturia is in the wedding dress.
Yes! Oh my God.
Then you're like, oh yeah, that's right, this is for porn.
Oh right, that's right, this is so arrogant.
I had almost forgotten.
You almost forget, and then the series reminds you, like, it'll just kind of rear its head and be like, hey, don't forget, this is about dicks! And it's even more blatant in the actual visual novel. The anime is massively toned down. And I mean, just there are things that I am like, if anybody's parents are listening to this right now, please turn this off, because I have to say this because it's so ridiculous. But it's really saucy, so I'm sorry. One of the ways Amegus can restore her magic in the Fate visual novel, if she's burned through a lot of mana, is to take in semen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. Oh,
we're earning our explicit rating on iTunes now.
I'm really sorry. And it's like, I love this series, but like, when I try to tell my friends about this series, I'm always like, you should watch Unlimited Blade. Maybe not. You know? You like...
It's, like, I tried to recommend it to my friends, and then I'm like, because, like, yeah, the premise is, yeah, you summon King Arthur and Hercules and Robin Hood and, you know, Cuchulainn, and they fight so that you can get a wish. You're like, that's dope.
That's dope. As a concept, it's really cool. And then, like, you get to it, and it's like, if you tell somebody to watch, you know, if you tell somebody to watch Fate Zero, right? Like, hey, if you make a mistake, you're like, watch Fate Zero first. Cool, except the first episode features, like, a 10-year-old girl covered in worms, naked, and you're like, nah. And then you tell somebody to watch Unlimited Blade Works, and it's like, this is really cute. And then you get to the part with Saber tied up in the church, and you're like, nah. So, yeah, I really love it. I tell my friends all the time how much I love this show, and then they're like, well, we should watch it sometimes. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't. No.
You should not watch it in a group setting.
No, well, I mean, we watched Kill la Kill together, so...
Yeah, but Kill la Kill's wacky about it.
It is wacky about it. Fate is deadly serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
okay.
ridiculous.
So that clears up a lot then. So I'm
glad, because I feel like I went kind of like rambly there, but...
No, because like the timelines are always going to be like I don't know, like I think I've said this to you before, but I don't think I've said it online, is that like I have like a weird like ability to really grasp time paradoxes and loops like quickly. Yeah. So it's like
you've played Chrono Trigger 700,000 times.
Yeah, and I love time travel, and that kind of thing is like as a storytelling gimmick. So like I really understand it quickly. So like the idea of branching timelines that kind of, or that may or may not loop onto each other or may not exist or whatever, like I can understand that pretty quickly. So
oh yeah, although as like an addendum, I did totally forget that Prisma Ilia also features a secondary timeline inside of itself.
Yeah, I did see that. There is that chart. That
chart that's crazy and is like, here's where it starts, here's where it splits off, and then it splits off again. Prisma Ilia has a secondary timeline in it. The badass Shiro is from the alternate timeline. And boy, I wish Prisma Ilia wasn't so creepy, because there's a lot of really cool shit in it. But, so, sorry, that was just I had to interrupt and get that out. So, yeah.
No, so that actually does lead to my next, the next, big question I have, that, that has a very complicated, I told you that so I could tell you this kind of answer to it.
Right.
And then the rest I have they are more plot related, so it'll be a little bit easier to break those down.
Okay.
So, the last one is probably the biggest one.
I know.
And that is, just as there are a handful of Soras running around, what... And I know you've told me this before, but it was over, chat and not in, direct verbal communication. So how the hell are Shiro, Archer, and Emiya connected?
Okay. So, just to be real quick, Emiya and Archer are the same person. Shiro and Archer... So... The number of Shiro clones running around in the actual Fate timeline, so just the original one, so Zero, Stay Night, and Holodactyraxia is 3. There are, and really one of them isn't Shiro, but kind of is and isn't at the same time. So there is just normal good old-fashioned Emiya Shiro, the kid who Kiritsugu, sorry.
Don't sound like the Fate Stay Night dub on me.
So bad, right? Emiya Shiro is the kid that Kiritsugu adopted, saved from the fire, all that good stuff. Promptly died 5 years later, after giving this kid a massive hero complex. Thanks, Kiritsugu, you're completely
Now that I have fucked up this child, I can die.
Pretty much. And then there is Emiya, who is the same person as Archer, mostly. So, Emiya Shiro grows up, and he becomes the hero of justice he's always wanted to be, and eventually is given the choice that we see in the Unlimited Blade Works anime, which is you can sacrifice, or you can make a deal with the counterforce itself to keep this nuclear reactor from melting down, but in exchange, the counterforce now owns you, and you will become a counter guardian. And because Shiro had problems, so many problems, he agreed to it, and that's where, when he dies, eventually, he is reborn, or he is added to the Throne of Heroes as Archer, and is also used as a counter guardian, right?
Okay. So Emiya is Emiya in all caps is the counter guardian version of Archer.
Yeah.
So the way I can break this down easier is that, like, Cucullin is Lancer.
Right.
But Cucullin can also be a caster.
Yes.
So Emiya is equals Cucullin.
Right.
And the way that Archer equals Lancer.
Right. Emiya, Emiya is just his heroic spirit name. It is what it's kind of what's on his, like, stats card, basically.
Yeah.
Because everybody in all of the servants in Fate have canon stats, you know, their writing ability and their, you know, their luck and that kind of thing. So
wait, writing ability?
Yeah, you can ride mounts and stuff. And
oh, I thought you said writing.
No.
And, like, they're graded on penmanship?
I mean, it's Japan, so I honestly wouldn't be that surprised. But no, I mean, like, they're riding with a D.
Yes, like horseback or driving.
With a D.
D. Like everything in Fate.
Because it's a porn game.
Like Artoria that one time.
We'll get to that. But that's why Artoria is really bad. Just like a side. That's why Artoria is really badass on her motorcycle in Fate Zero, is because she has an A-class riding ability. So even, like, in the modern world, she can instantly know how to use a motorcycle and make it look fucking awesome.
Right, and then that's also, like, one of the canon things they state is that when a heroic spirit is summoned as a servant, they are basically caught up to speed with technology and modern, like, societal,
because
nature.
Again, the Throne of Heroes is connected to Akasha, so obviously, and Akasha is the knowledge of everything that ever has been and everything that will be, so Akasha can kind of immediately give them, as they are summoned, the information about the modern world. Or at least enough to kind of get around and know what's going on and not be, like, so fucking shocked by, you know, cell phones.
Yeah.
But so Emiya is what Shiro becomes when he dies. Now I'm starting to sound like a bad translation of the visual novel. When he dies, he becomes heroic spirit Emiya. And then eventually that counter guardian dies? I'm actually having a hard time remembering that part right now. But basically, he ends up a heroic spirit and is logged into the Throne of Heroes. And eventually Rin summons him by mistake because she has his catalyst and didn't realize it. So there we go.
So like, we see bits of like flash forwards in Fate's Day in Unlimited Blade Works, where it's Shiro / Emiya,
right,
like, running around villages and saving the day.
Right.
And when he's doing that, he is Emiya as the counter guardian, who eventually dies and ascends to the Throne of Heroes.
No. So there's Shiro in the flash forwards where his skin is darker and his hair is white as a result of his magic. And that Shiro eventually dies, right? And that one becomes a counter guardian and also part of the Throne of Heroes. It's really weird. And
okay, so it's not like the counterforce was bringing Emiya in to calling in an assist to help out with this conflict. It was all Shiro, and then he died.
And then the counterforce is like, hey, now you're dead, I own you, and so I'm now going to dispatch you to go out and kill off anybody who could destabilize the world. And he killed so many people, he eventually became super jaded and was like, well, one day I'll be summoned as a heroic spirit, and thanks to the infinite possibilities of universe, maybe at some point I might be summoned at the same time as my past self existing, and I will go and kill my past self, and maybe, God willing, that paradox will be so intense that will keep me from existing as a counter guardian, which is not how time travel works in Fate's Day Night, but Archer was hoping for a miracle, basically. And
he was hoping for a long shot.
He was hoping for a long shot, and it worked out. because coincidences, and that's why it's partly called fate.
Hey!
What's up? So yeah, that probably wasn't as clear as it could have been, but, the truth is that I don't actually know perfectly when Shiro stops being Shiro and is just Emiya, and then when Emiya is a counter guardian, and when that counter guardian stops just being a counter guardian and is also a servant. Like, I don't know exactly when all of that stuff happens piece by piece. I just know that eventually it does happen, and we get Archer in Fate's Day Night eventually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, you know, that also clears up another question I had on here, based
cool.
on what you piggybacked on another one, which is how, I was going to ask how the Archer in Extra is the same Archer as the one in Fate's Day Night, and the answer is because of the same timeline.
Yes, but not exactly.
But, I mean, like, they have the same, they are part of the same origin timeline that branch off.
Right.
So, because you can summon a servant through time and space and it doesn't matter, you could call the same one because it's the same origin timeline.
No. Yes. So, so in Fate Extra, and this kind of lets me get back to the little pin I stuck in Fate Extra. Fate Extra is an alternate timeline where the state of mana in the 1970s declined so much that the world as we know it is vastly different in the Fate. It's kind of either like a post-apocalypse or on the verge of an apocalypse kind of thing, because there is no counterforce in the Extra universe. Like, that's the first most important thing to know, is that there is no counterforce in the Extra universe. Okay?
Okay.
What is in the Extra universe, and I guess this kind of means that Extra is its own alternate reality, but it still shares the Age of Heroes and all that goodness. But in the Extra universe, instead of it being... Well, Akasha, I guess, existed at one point and doesn't anymore? Question mark? But the moon is a supercomputer. God save me.
Extra's weird.
I love Extra so much. I actually legitimately love the Fate Extra universe more than the canon universe. Partly because I like the protagonist a lot, and partly because it's just completely batshit in a really special way. So the Extra, and I haven't played Extella yet, sorry, but I did listen to a plot summary before this got started just so I could kind of know what's going on. So the moon is called the moon cell in the Extra universe, and it functions basically the same way as the Akashic Records. It was built by an advanced alien civilization hundreds of millions of years before the Earth even existed. In the Extra universe, the moon was here before the Earth, not the other way around. So the moon...
So aliens exist in the Fate universe.
Yes.
Great. Super.
Super duper, right?
Fuck it, why not?
Feel like you need to have a drink about it now.
See, like... No, here's the deal, okay?
Yeah.
Is that, like... I think that's awesome. Like,
I know,
legit.
It's so awesome.
One of my favorite things ever is that, like, when you take a series that is kind of like a weird amalgamation of a lot of, like, fantasy tropes or a lot of science fiction tropes. For example, like Fallout or JoJo even. Like, they're both really good examples of this. Where it's like, Fallout has giant radioactive bugs. And it has, like, it's all based on the way we thought radiation worked in the 50s. And there are robots and, you know, zombies and whatnot. And then it's like, also, aliens are here.
Yeah, also there are aliens.
And it's like, well, why? There was nothing in the previous games that said there couldn't be, so sure.
Sure, fuck it, why not? Yeah, aliens, but I mean, like, the aliens in Fate Extra left the moon cell and then just kind of fucked off. And just kind of...
Which is, like, the perfect way to do it, because, like... like, they are here, they did their thing, and then they're gone.
Right. And the moon cell functions as Akasha in the extra timeline. But otherwise, everything else about the extra timeline is exactly the same as the canon timeline. Like, all the other timelines, it all is the same until the 1970s, so don't worry about that. But I got off topic. Oh, right. So the moon cell is a supercomputer inside the moon, and it is the same thing. It is so, its processing power is so beyond the capacity for human thought that it basically has become magic. You know, it's that whole idea of technology so advanced that after a certain point, it's just magic.
Right.
And the only way you can access it is with Spiritron hacking, which is using your magic circuits to connect to the internet and
I'm sorry. Can you repeat what it's called again, please?
Spiritron hacking.
Spiritron hacking.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
That sounds like the name of something that you would see in a movie in the 80s.
It sounds like a Megaton spinoff.
Yes, it does. Shin Megami Tensei Spiritron hacking.
It totally does, right?
You're 100% right. Coming soon to the 3DS. Well, you know what, Sarah? You just gave away what Atlas's new Switch project
Switch game is. Totally. Shut the fuck up. Do you have any idea how I would actually 100,000% explode into glitter and tears if Type Moon and Atlas ever collaborated on something? You would never see me again. Like, I would cut off I would move into my basement and just become the weird, creepy basement dweller who's obsessed with Type Moon and Atlas, okay?
I mean, they did come close in Extra, considering the school you go to has literally the exact same layout as Yasogami High.
You're not wrong, and it is half school simulator, but not nearly as it's half visual novel and half dungeon crawler in exactly the same way that Persona 4 is half visual novel and half dungeon crawler.
The aliens create the supercomputer that's just like magic, and you can hack into it using your magic circuits. Yeah.
So what I'm basically saying is that the Emiya now there was a lot of argument about this for a long time, but thank God UBW did us a favor, and a lot of people were like, no, the nameless hero in Extra isn't the same person as Archer from Stay Night at all. Everybody was trying to say that. And then, whoops, the future version of Emiya, or of Shiro you see in UBW, uses the same design as future Shiro that you see at the end of Archer's ending in CCC. So hey, shut up haters, it's the same person. But basically it's a version of Shiro who lived and was betrayed and died, and helped a lot of people, but he was a mercenary instead, so he was bitter. But he was recorded by the Serial Phantasm, not the Serial Phantasm, that's something kind of different. He was recorded by the Moon Cell and entered into the Automaton, which is the Moon Cell's version of the Throne of Heroes. And so when you summon him in Fate Extra, he isn't nearly as bitter, but he is the same person, he just didn't have quite the same horrible end. But it is the same person.
It is still Shiro.
It is still Shiro. But that does kind of leave a weird question that I just now literally just thought of, which is that, ow, fuck, I just got a leg cramp. I was sitting in a funny way. Hold on, who's that? Anyways, so Fate Extra is set in 2030 something. But the Archer end for CCC has the protagonist meet the actual version of Emiya, which I feel like is probably a plot hole, but maybe I just don't know something. Because he should be, way older.
Well, I mean, he's magic.
Just don't. He meets the actual... Your protagonist can meet the actual version of Emiya before he dies. Don't worry about it. Look, don't, because
Yeah.
CCC doesn't count because it's not out in English yet. We'll worry about that if we ever get it.
Mm-hmm.
We're never gonna get CCC. I'm so sad. But yeah, otherwise basically the same person. Sorry, that was a tangent.
Okay, no, I understand it a little bit better now.
It's really...
Like, extra's weird, because like you said, like, it sounds to me like Extra actually is a completely different origin point timeline, considering there was influence back millennia
right
with the aliens.
Right.
So, if that's the case, then that would be a completely different, completely isolated series of events.
Yeah, and I guess that does make sense because, like, the Fate Stay Night timeline is set in the same universe as Kara no Kyokai and Tsukihime is based really strongly around the moon, so the moon has to be what it is, to kind of to be canon. Like, it can't be a supercomputer. Like, it cannot secretly be a supercomputer in the Fate Stay Night universe, is the point I'm making. So yeah, Extra is basically its own separate timeline mostly. But a lot of the other events basically happen exactly the same way. Like, everything up until the 1970s, it's all the same. And then things go really, really batshit really fast. But I love Extra. Oh my god. I love Extra. I could probably talk about Extra just as its own podcast, just because I think this universe is, like, really, really fun. Because it's insane. So yeah, sorry, that wasn't quite as focused as it could have been. Basically,
no,
they're the same person. Yeah.
Yeah, so that clears that up. So, that takes care of, like, a lot of the bigger, more convoluted questions I have that involve, like, explaining separate timelines and branching points and whatnot, and
the rules of the world. You
know? Like, so most of them are kind of more, like, straightforward, answers, and some of them are a bit,
you think they're straightforward, but this is fake, fucker.
I could be wrong, I don't know.
You could be totally wrong. Alright.
Okay, so, first one is kind of in the same vein, but I think I know the answer to it, but I just want to see if there's, like, a reason for it. So, why do Nero and Artoria look exactly the same?
Because Takeuchi has no creativity.
Okay. That's what I thought the answer was going to be.
Because Saberface sells really well.
Yeah, I figured the answer was because Saber.
It's because there has to be a Saber in your Fate spin-off. Fuck off. That's basically it.
I didn't know if there was, like, a plot line of, like, because Nero is Artoria's ancestor, or because, like, she exists as a parallel to Artoria. But no, it's just because you need to put the pretty blonde girl on the box.
Yeah, you need to put a Saber on the box. And this one has big titties.
Yeah, so everyone wins.
Everybody wins. It's Saber with boobs. Yeah, no. I'm sure there is some, like hand-wavy bullshit explanation in Fate Extra, but I secretly don't like Nero that much, so
Nero's the worst Saber.
Definitely, like, the most boring of the Saber faces, for sure.
I played her out, and part of the reason I gave up on Extra in the first place is because Nero's just so boring.
She's not my kind of character. A lot of people like her. I'm not one of those people who likes her. I don't like the haughty, my tragic backstory. I mean, which is bullshit because Goro Akechi is my favorite character in Persona 5. Listen, it's different. I just don't like her version of the arrogant, I'm so good at everything, oh ho 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 type of character. It's just something about her really grates on me. But I'm sure there is, like, a reason why they have the same face, but I promise you, it is a bullshit hand-wavy reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is just because, like, I still don't quite understand. I want to know, like, just a bit more about the character in general. So this is not, like, from what I can gather, like, there is only one real assassin, right? And that is...
Yes.
Hashashin.
Yeah. It's Hassan something something something. He has a full long name.
Yeah. Whenever you summon an assassin, it'll be him.
Right.
So, this is kind of two questions.
Sure.
One, why is that? And two, if that's true, then what was the assassin in Fate's Day Night?
Oh boy, you just opened a can of Heaven's Feel spoilers, my friend. And now that we're here, you're going to have to deal with them.
Okay.
So generally the reason why you can only summon, canonically, the only reason you can summon Hassan of Many Faces is what his name translates out to. The only reason you can summon him is because he is the truest assassin. It's kind of like how Gilgamesh has every noble phantasm, because he has the prototype of every noble phantasm in his Gate of Babylon. Hassan is the truest assassin. He is the prototype of every other assassin in the world. Because Hassan has a multiple personality disorder, this is one of my favorite things about this character, even though he isn't explored very much in, like, the canon. Hassan had a multiple personality disorder, and because of that, that's why he can manifest as so many different versions of himself. So he is kind of like the proto-assassin for everyone else. So when you want an assassin, you're going to get Hassan because he is the ultimate embodiment of the assassin class. Sure, there were other assassins in history, but none quite so famous or quite so storied in legend. And since the Throne of Heroes draws from stories and legends, you're going to get Hassan.
So it's kind of like, in a way, it's like, depending on what you like, because I know you kind of get like a choice of what you want your servant to be when you summon them,
right?
Based on
if you have certain catalysts and stuff like that. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, if you want a really good archer, like who's great with bows, you're gonna get Robin Hood,
right?
Like, or if you want like the greatest, just straight up pure greatest swordsman, you're gonna get Artoria,
right?
Like, Hassan just checks all those boxes.
Right. Well, yes, Hassan checks those boxes, but to specifically get a certain servant in the Fate series, you have to have that catalyst. Like, you can roll the dice, and if you have enough like Rin was shooting to get a saber when she accidentally summoned Archer in Fate's Day Night, right? Because she accidentally had his catalyst with her and she didn't realize it. But if you have enough mana, and if you know the incantation, and you draw your circle right, you can maybe luck your way into getting Saber. You know?
Which is what the guy who summoned Caster in Zero did, right?
Yeah. He summoned Caster... He summoned Caster because he accidentally had a catalyst that was good enough to summon Caster. And I think it was that... Well, no. I think it was that because Ryunosuke and Gilles de Rais had such a compatible... The other thing is your personalities can sometimes determine on what you get. This is not the case for Kiritsugu and Saber, of course, but Gilles de Rais and Ryunosuke both really liked murdering children. And because nobody had filled the caster role yet, the Grail kind of forced Gilles de Rais or Bluebeard into the caster role. It's actually why the caster in Zero is considered a really shitty caster, especially in comparison. Like, Medea from Stay Night would wipe the floor with him. I mean, she would demolish him because she's a true caster. She is an actual mage from the era of gods, no less. But, so he summoned Gilles de Rais, and then the Throne of Heroes kind of shoved him into the caster class because it was the only unfilled class.
Okay, which is also kind of what happened with Archer and Stay Night, right? Because, like, I know, like, he's mentioned a few times that he's not a very good archer.
No, it's actually, in this case, it's one of Shiro's hang-ups. Shiro himself is actually a decent archer. He's not great, but remember, he was a member of the archery club before Shinji ran him off. But he's okay. He's like, he's an alright archer, but his true strength is in swordplay. But the deal is that Archer himself does not perceive himself to be good enough at his own sword skills to be sorted into the saber class. Like, he is very capable with swords, and obviously, actually, his origin is sword. Like, that is his little piece of the world inside of him, his origin, kind of like, the way Kiritsugu's origin bullets disrupt things, cut and tie and all that goodness. Shiro's is swords. That's why he can project swords. That's why sometimes when he's shown healing, his body is actually made of swords. But Archer himself has such little confidence in his own sword skills that he is automatically sorted into the next class he is available for, which is Archer.
Okay, alright.
So that takes us back to Sojiro, right?
The assassin in Fate Stay Night.
Right, Sasaki. No, Sojiro. That's the dad in Persona 5. Kojiro's Sasaki.
Yes.
Well, spoilers. Hassan is in Fate Stay Night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, because Hassan's one of my favorite servant in the series.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Kirei is a cheating piece of shit, and he actually has 2 servants. Because he stole Bazette's command seals when he killed Bazette, and so he had also he had Lancer, but he also had Assassin. So the assassin in Stay Night is weird because Stay Night is like the beginning point of the Fate series, but it's also like, hey, here's all these rules, now we're gonna break every single one of them. So there's 8 servants running around and 2 assassins, and Avenger shows up in Hollow Ataraxia, and it's all completely insane. And it's kind of crazy. So Assassin, as we know him, the true Hassan, is in Stay Night, but Medea is OP enough because she's, again, a mage from the era of gods, that she can summon her own servant, but because he is not a true assassin and not a real person, he is bound to the ley lines of Ryudo Temple.
So he's kind of defaulted in, so he's not even really one of the servants then.
Right. He's not the true. They call him, like, they call Hassan in, like, the fandom and stuff. They call Hassan the true assassin in Fate Stay Night. Like, that's his title, is the true assassin. Kojiro is just kind of like a placeholder. He's basically a familiar that Medea summons, and he just kind of fit into the assassin
so he's
class.
Not. So it's not even like he's actually the assassin. It's just that everyone calls him that because they think he is the assassin.
Right. He's sorted into the assassin class, but he's not a very good assassin. He's a swordsman. But Medea needed to fit him into some class, and that's just what she got. She still has command. There are still command seals for him and stuff. So he is a servant, but it's just a weird situation.
So in that case, what happened to Hassan in Unlimited Blade Works? Because he wasn't there in the anime at all.
Right. I think it was that, like, jeez.
Hello?
Basically, can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you for, like, just a second, but it's okay.
Sorry. Okay, cool. Basically, he was kind of fulfilling the same role that he had in Zero, where he was a spy, and then Lancer killed Kirei. So...
Oh, and then that would do it, yep.
Yep, so it's not like he can really do anything, you know? So, yeah, Lancer told Kirei to get fucked.
So, Hassan was just kind of chilling, and then he's like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have stuck around a little bit.
Yeah, maybe should have hung around a little bit and guarded the master. But I mean, you know, Kirei is such an arrogant piece of shit that he thought that Lancer was dead. But you can't keep a good golden retriever down, motherfucker.
Now that actually does lead to another, like, a question I didn't have written down, but it is something I've always kind of just, like, I never really picked up on the exact, like, nature of it, so I don't know. What happens to a servant when they are either killed or their master is killed?
they disappear. They are just made out of mana, remember?
Okay.
So they basically, they just disappear. Their mana dissipates because it's what's keeping their master is basically the source of mana, keeping them bound to the physical world. And so once that source of mana is there, they vanish. The only exception to this is the Archer class, which is why when Archer breaks his pact with Reen, he can still keep doing his own thing even after he betrays Medea, because Archers, as a class, have a special skill called Independent Action. And it basically means, based on the skill of the servant, like the skill ranking of the servant, they can exist in the real world on their own without any kind of master keeping them tethered in place, anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks. Archer only had 3 days. Gilgamesh could have up to 3 weeks because he is a more advanced servant. So yeah.
And then in the case of Gilgamesh, and in some cases like Artoria and Medea, I know in some situations they use the Holy Grail's wish to become fully human.
No. Well, Medea wanted that. She wanted another chance at life, and to be happy with Kuzuki, the teacher. She wanted to be happy with him. Saber is a special case because of the nature of her death. And Gilgamesh is human only because he bathed in the mud of the Holy Grail at the actual entrance point, and it basically gave him a new body, because that mud is like all of the impossibilities and curses of the world pouring down onto him, and it basically gave him a human body, but with the abilities of the servant, because that's not fucking broken at all.
So he cheated!
He cheated, because he's Gilgamesh and he can do that kind of thing.
Okay.
And Saber is a special case. Saber cannot turn into a spirit form. You might have noticed that in Zero and Stay Night. I don't know if they explained it well enough, so I'm going to right now.
Yes, do that, please.
The circumstances of Saber's death and her situation as a servant are kind of unique, because... So when you say death, do you mean Artoria's death or yes.
Saber's death?
I mean Artoria Pendragon's death. So, at the Battle of Camlan, right? That's the fight where Mordred spears, where Artoria kills Mordred, and Mordred mortally wounds Artoria. And so, what happens is, as she's mortally wounded, she's on top of that field of bodies that we see her in a lot of flashbacks. She made an appeal to the counterforce, to Akasha, the world, and she said... give me another chance. Give me the chance to go back and redo my time as king, because I fucked up so much. I want another chance. And if you let me do that, when I die again, I will serve you as a counter guardian. Right?
Right.
And then after Fate Zero, Fate Zero fucked with her so much that she actually changed her wish entirely to... give me a chance to let somebody else be king. She just, after everything, she was betrayed in Fate Zero by Kiritsugu, and she's basically left bitter and jaded by the whole affair. She decided she didn't even want to be king anymore. She wanted to let that responsibility go and have somebody else do it, because she clearly does not think she is fit to rule Britain. Because of that, Saber is kind of frozen in time, and she is not actually kept in the Throne of Heroes. Saber is very unique. Artoria Saber, that is. She is kept at the Battle of Camlan forever, until either she wins the Holy Grail and gets her wish to redo history, or she gives up and says, the Grail isn't worth it, I'm going to let it go and move on to the afterlife, which is what happens at the end of all of the Fate Stay Night routes. Except for maybe Heaven's Feel. I don't know what actually happens with Saber Altar yet. So yeah, what's happening is they're not summoning a spirit. Crap, don't go to sleep on me yet, computer. I got a lot to say. You're not summoning a spirit, you're actually summoning the physical body of Artoria.
Okay, so she's not comprised of mana, she is herself.
Yeah, she's a person.
Okay.
Yeah. She has, like, all of the fancy, amazing regenerative abilities of a servant. She's got all that magic and stuff going for her because she's connected to a master via magic circuits, of course. But she can't turn into a spirit form unlike everybody else because, again, the nature of her death and the nature of her summoning means that she is kind of a special case. And so she is not part of the Throne of Heroes. Now, Saber Lily is, but that's a younger version of Saber, and who is her own person, because obviously the Throne of Heroes can summon different versions of the same person, so younger and older and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of
that I get it now.
You get you do get it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that I thought we were done with stuff like this, but fuck me.
I told you! Get fucked! This is the Fate franchise. Nothing's ever simple, dude. Come on. Because Kanoko Nasu has to make things as convoluted as humanly fucking possible. Alright,
okay.
What else?
This is just one that bothers me.
Go for it.
Why couldn't they just call Assassin Killer and fit the theme?
Because it sounds stupid.
No, it doesn't!
It does! Killer?
No! Killer sounds... because it fits with all the other classes.
But, like, Killer, that's like a name you'd give a scary-looking dog. Like, Assassin is like, you're summoning a famous assassin from here.
No, but Sara. Sara.
The naming structure.
Do you know what anime was popular when Fate Stay Night came out? A little series called Death Note. Do you know what the name of the main character in Death Note was?
Was it
Killer?
Yeah. Shut up. Look.
Do you know what the name of the villain in Part 4 of JoJo is?
Is it
Killer?
It's Killer. Yeah, very creative, guys. No, it's just like... You didn't ask for a real answer, but you're gonna get a real answer. Because technically, if it's not classed as assassin, any of those other motherfuckers in the Holy Grail War could be summoned under that class because it's not an assassin, it's a killer. And all of those people killed people, so it's basically like a catch-all class.
No, that doesn't work. Because a saber is a very specific kind of sword.
Right. Well, no,
so
a saber
that
is
one
just
doesn't...
a sword.
No, but it's a specific kind of sword. Like, Artoria doesn't wield a saber. Nero doesn't wield a saber.
Shut up. And nobody is a fucking archer in Fate Stay Night. Yeah. You're right.
No, there's no real archers besides Robin Hood. Like, out of all these motherfuckers who get the archer role, none of them are actually archers.
Gilgamesh just throws swords, so that's another saber, basically. It's just saber with a lot of them, and they fly.
Like, archer... Like, the archer class is really just a weaker saber.
It's just a weaker saber with the occasional range. You can put, like, gunmen into the archer class, too, so whatever. Shut up.
So what it should be is swordsman, marksman.
Yeah.
You know?
Shut up.
Like, I mean, I guess a caster only works because we already have mage, but...
Right.
You know, like, if you're gonna do assassin and make that one stand out, then do the same thing with like, a few of the others, so that it doesn't so obviously break the fucking pattern.
But in that way, it also helps you remember, like, what all the fucking class names are. Because it's like, well, I named all these I remember all these class names. What's the one I'm forgetting? Oh, right, the one that doesn't sound like everybody else. There you go. Maybe that's why it happened like that. I don't know.
I always feel bad because, like, I feel like Rider and Archer are the and other class.
Kinda. Rider is such a weird class because it can really be just about...
It can be anything. Like, why is Medusa a rider?
Because she can ride the Pegasus.
But that's not what she's known for.
I know, but she can ride the Look, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We talk about that all the time. Hey, don't worry about it, okay? Like, I actually don't know why Medusa is sorted into the writer class. I feel like that was just kind of a and other, like you said.
Right? Yeah.
I'm sure there's an in-universe reason, but I can't remember it right now.
Like Ixander isn't known for riding horses. He's known for like conquering everything.
But he was riding in like a chariot and stuff, and like generally speaking, riders can also be like leaders of men. You know, they're usually they ride on, you know, like Ryder in Extra is a pirate because she has a big boat. You know, that kind of
but it's like, oh, if I were in charge of fate, I would totally just like, I would have totally like reclassed Ryder as like leader, because like they're usually like people like leader or like conqueror, because they're usually people who are in charge. Like the whole thing with Ryder is that like their noble phantasms usually are like, hey, I brought my bros with me.
Right? Yeah. You know, like, again, Ryder in Extra, her noble phantasm is, hey, I brought all my ships with me.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel that for sure.
Yeah, but that's just, like, my nitpicky thing about the Fate universe, because I think, like, without a doubt, Assassin is my favorite looking, character in the Fate universe. Assassin's design is fucking awesome.
Assassin's design is really fucking dope. And I like the whole idea that like the multiple personality disorder thing manifests as like a whole one-man army basically for the master to use, which I just think is really, really cool.
Yeah. I'm just always just like, but why doesn't it fit the convention?
Because there's gotta be a standout. There's so many other fucking classes too. There's like
there's Avenger and
Ruler.
What's the one you immediately get in Defender in Grand Order?
Shielder.
Shield. Which that's dumb.
It's not great because she's got a giant shield. It's not great.
You could call it Defender.
You could call it Defender, but that would make sense. And this is still Fate Stay Night. Go fuck yourself. No. It's silly. Fate is silly. Fate is... Let's not go to Camelot. 'Tis a silly place. You know? So...
You know, like, really, really God bless Fate for finally giving me a King Arthur that isn't Monty Python that I can like associate, you know?
Right. It's pretty. Oh God. Anything else?
There are two more, and it's kind of like
exciting.
this. It's kind of like the same question, but like again, this is more just like I've never really quite fully grasped what the deal with all these is. Is like, what is the Mato family's deal, and why are they so evil?
You didn't think you were gonna get a big long explanation.
Well, I knew this was gonna be long, but I knew it wasn't going to involve time travel.
It's not going to involve time travel, don't worry, but it is kind of a mess. So Zoken Mato, the big ol' horrible evil guy, he's like super, super old. He's like crazy, ridiculously old as balls. Because he's keeping himself alive with those horrible little crestworms and stuff. Basically, so the Matos, the Einsburns, and the Tosakas founded the Holy Grail War. They are the reason it exists, because the Holy Grail War is a way to initiate, it's called a Heaven's Feel. Finger guns, that's why it's called that in the third route. They're basically trying to initiate a Heaven's Feel, which is opening a path to Akasha via the sacrifice of 7 servants, which is enough mana to let you get past the counterforce and reach the root.
The Keyblade War.
It's the Keyblade War, yeah, for sure. It's the Keyblade War. But of course, over time, things got a little warped. And eventually, only the Tosakas began to even care about reaching the root, because the Tosakas are like the true mage family of the Fate franchise. They're there only to learn and reach knowledge and, you know, be boring in Tokiomi's case, and that's why he had to go. Because Gilgamesh got bored. And so, but everybody else stopped caring. The Ainsburns just wanted more power. Zokin wanted to become immortal. I don't know if Zokin's been around since the beginning of the Holy Grail War, but I think he has been. I don't know. He's super, super old because, like, the first Holy Grail War was in, like, the 1400s or something like that. Maybe not that long ago. It was a while ago. Anyways, so basically the Tosakas, shit. The Matos are on the downswing. Because of some shit, all of the progeny of the Mato family kind of ended up being fuck-ups. Like, Shinji's dad is just useless. He has basically no talent for magic and absolutely no magic circuits, despite being, like, a part of a mage lineage that stretches back hundreds and hundreds of generations. He's basically useless and sucks. And I think Kiritsugu just kind of, like, kills him off in one part of Fate Zero and is just like, oh, okay. And then Karya is the other Mato son, and he actually had some talent for magic, but he was so disgusted with how the Mato family had become with the whole nightmarish crestworms thing that he fucked off as well, until obviously bad shit happened with Sakura, and then Aoi friend-zoned him so hard he kind of lost his mind.
Yep. You ever been friend-zoned so hard you fill yourself with bugs?
Yeah, I'll fill myself with horrible worm monsters, and that will make Aoi love me. Nope, buddy. No, sorry.
She doesn't love your gross face.
Sorry, buddy. I feel really bad for Karya, but Karya kind of lost it toward the end there. He was always a little crazy, because, like, he was kind of white knighting on Aoi super hard, because Aoi, despite all of Tokiomi's boringness and horribleness, by trading Sakura off to the Matos, Aoi did love Tokiomi. I can't imagine why, but she did.
There's no accounting for taste.
Yeah. But, so, she loved her husband, and Karya still wanted her to be with him, and when eventually, you know, she found out, oh, my husband's dead, she was like, get the fuck away from me, and then Karya snapped and, you know, strangled her. It was a horrible moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a really, like, oof.
Yeah, I think we actually had to stop watching it after that scene. If I'm remembering right, I think you and I were both like, well, that's enough Fate Zero for the night.
We're like, let's put this on pause for, like, a little bit, and then we'll come back to it later.
We'll come back to it after we've recovered. Yeah. So, basically what I'm saying is the Matos are evil because they just kind of are. They're all just power-hungry, crazy assholes, except for Sakura, and Sakura is also super crazy.
Yeah, she's in a different crazy.
She's in a different situation, but boy, she's still kind of batshit. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, like, you know, understandably batshit, considering her horrible situation, you poor child. But still, you know, she fits in just fine with the rest of them, because they're all fucking crazy. But I love Sakura. She's definitely best romance option. I don't know about best girl, but definitely best romance option. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why all the Matos suck, is because they're all power-hungry, terrible people.
They're all power-hungry, and they're failing, so they're getting desperate.
Yes, that's definitely what it is. They're a failing lineage, and their magic circuits. Magic circuits, by the way, just as like another little world-building aside, are a cumulative thing. That's why, like, Cainith, like Elmaloy, was so dismissive toward Waver, because Waver was only like a third-generation mage. Like, so the idea, the whole way, like, the mage's world and fate works, and it's really fucked up, and it's why Rin has so many, like, issues, is because, like, the magic world and fate is generally horrible. Like, everything about it is just kind of awful, because it's all about, like, kind of treating people like cattle. It's all about, like, ideal breeding stuff.
It's eugenics.
Yeah, it's all eugenics, because, like, what you want to create, like, a magically powerful spawn is you want to have a bunch of really good magic circuits, and you need your spouse to also have a bunch of magically good, or a lot of magic circuits, right? It's the number of magic circuits, because the more you have, the more mana you can channel, the more powerful you can become, and eventually, if you can amass enough power, you can make it to the root. Again, everything goes back to getting to Akasha. So, because of that, you really don't marry for love in the mage's world. You marry because, like, hey, that chick has a bunch of magic circuits, and I have a bunch of magic circuits. Let's make a baby with even more magic circuits.
That was very History of Japan of you. Like, the way you said that phrase was very, like, History of the World, I guess. Like...
I'm so glad. Good. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good way to break it down, though. I mean, it's all about breeding and general horribleness, and yeah, so that's why Sakura is traded off to the Matos, because she also had a bunch of magic circuits, but you can only pass your magic crest, which is like all of your family knowledge, onto one person, and Tokiyomi was like, well, I'll teach it to Rin, but Sakura is also really talented, so I'll give Sakura to the Matos. I don't think he knew the Matos were as horrible as they are, but I mean,
I'm going to give Tokiyomi the benefit of the doubt here and say that he didn't think they would fill her with centipedes.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I thought maybe, like, it'll be, like, a rough situation, but she'll get to be, like, a real mage, you know? No. Sorry, dude.
They will teach her tough love. Nope.
Yeah. Nope. They will fill her with centipedes. And so, like, that's why, you know, Rin is actually one of the most competent masters in the franchise, and that's why they call, like, the little tiny brief period where Saber where Rin is Saber's servant, or master, in like that one little part of Unlimited Blade Works, they call that version of Saber Super Saber, because she's crazy awesome. Yeah. Because Shiro sucks as a master. But yeah, like, magic is all cumulative, that's why Waver gets shit-talked by Kaneth. I don't know how I even got on this topic. There's a lot. I was just asking what the Matos deal is. That was the original origin question. Oh, right. It's because shit went wrong, and basically the Matos, all of their offspring aren't taking on magic circuits anymore. I think it's probably because of something Zoken did. I don't know if that's canon, but I'm just going to say it is. Anyways, that's why Sakura ends up in the situation she's in, because she's got a bunch of magic circuits. Yay! Sorry, okay.
Okay, so I do have one more because I just thought of it while we were talking about that.
Okay.
And it actually does. So, is there? I don't know. Maybe it was stated already, or like it was stated and I just forgot. But which is entirely possible because there's a whole lot of shit that happens in these animes, and it's been a while since I watched them.
Sweet Jesus, yes there is.
Why was Shiro the only survivor of Fuyuki destruction?
They actually do explain that in the Fate route. I don't know if it's brought up as obviously in the Unlimited Blade Works route. I think it is mentioned. Anyways, so Kiritsugu found Shiro, thank you, in the rubble of the fire, and he still had Avalon with him, which is the catalyst they used to summon Saber at the beginning of Fate Zero. Avalon is the scabbard for Excalibur. And Avalon has its own magical properties as well. It is what made Saber, or Artoria Pendragon, the, like, incredible, unbeatable, godlike king that she was, because as long as Avalon is within proximity of Saber, she can't be killed. Avalon is like an insta-heal. It will always heal her wounds. The reason Artoria is mortally wounded at the Battle of Camlon is because somebody stole Avalon from her, but she still had to go fight Mordred.
Right.
And so Mordred was able to fatally wound her. But so when the fires come down on Fuyuki, Kiritsugu still had the, like... There's a type of magecraft that lets you break things down into, like, its spirit form, like its mana form, and he was actually able to put that inside of Shiro.
Okay.
So that's also why Shiro heals his wounds really fast in Unlimited Blade Works. Yeah, they mentioned that.
I knew that part, but I thought that was just because he summoned Saber, so he got Avalon.
Nope, that's why he was actually able to summon Saber at all, was because the magic circle inside the shed at the house was the one that I reinscribed, so that spot had some kind of, emotional connection to Saber. And he actually unknowingly had her catalyst with him the whole time, in the form of Avalon inside his body. Which is, again, that's why he survived, it's why he's able to summon Saber, it's why his wounds heal so quickly. So yeah.
Alright. then that makes a bit more sense then.
Right.
And then, because I thought it was tied to the uniqueness of his trace ability, which, as far, like, is that skill, like, something that only he can do, or is that just, like, something that other mages just don't bother to learn?
I think it's something that other mages don't bother to learn, because it is a type of magic. It's kind of a dick move on Kiritsugu's part, because Kiritsugu's a dick, but he also didn't want Shiro caught up in the mage world. It was like his one kind of good dad move, but it still fucked the kid up, because Kiritsugu was a terrible father. He basically didn't want Shiro caught up in, like, the world of Maguses and all that stuff, because their world, like we previously established, is really fucked up. So he taught Shiro a little bit of the magic he knew, which was the reinforcement stuff, despite the fact that, like, Shiro's origin is not really, like, made for that at all. So he does the reinforcement thing, and he kind of sucks at it, because it's against kind of, like, the natural magic his body gravitates toward. But it ends up helping him out in the end, because the natural magic he does have is towards swords. So if he can have his projection magic and his reinforcement magic kind of steer it towards swords, like his origin wants, he can actually do something pretty fucking awesome, which ends up being unlimited blade works, yeah. But I think other mages can do it, because Rin comments on it, that it's kind of like, like, low-tier magic shit. And they just don't fool with it, because it's below them, you know?
Like, it's like, so what basically happened is that everyone else is like, Shiro basically is playing the recorder, compared to everyone else playing, like,
a violin.
Everything else.
Yeah.
But, like, it ends up being that, hey, yeah, he's playing the recorder, but he's the fucking best recorder player to ever exist.
Exactly. That's basically what it is.
Do not fear the man who has practiced 1,000 songs once. Fear the man who has played hot cross buns 1,000 times.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, Shiro. Shiro is a whole bag of worms.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, that's
actually, technically, Sakura is a bag of worms.
Yeah.
So sad. Sorry.
So, wait, actually, are they still in her, or are they gone?
They're gone by the end of Heaven's Feel. Don't worry.
I figured that was the case, but I'm just like, but it's fate.
You never know.
So they might just still be in her.
Actually, Sakura at the end of Heaven's Feel is, like, kind of a god. Like, not exactly, but she retains a slight connection to the Greater Grail? There's a Greater Grail and a Lesser Grail. She retains a slight connection to Akasha itself, thanks to the fact that she was kind of like the epicenter of a Heaven's Feel. So she has, like, unlimited amounts of mana at her disposal, like a truly literal godlike amount of mana at her disposal, which is why after the Holy Grail War is over, Ryder still just kind of hangs around.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Ryder is like Sakura's #1 fan, and it's the best thing in the entire world. She is like the biggest Sakura fan ever. She really wants Sakura to get laid by Shiro. Like, she's wingmanning for Sakura really hard, which is just tremendous. Yeah, it's great. I love Sakura and her whole fucked up everything, but she's just the best. Like, best girl. Shut up. Fuck off. Yeah.
So that actually is it for questions.
Okay.
I do, like, so we can kind of just, like, wrap up and just kind of talk a little bit about it, because there is one thing I do want to mention.
Go for it.
And I just want to get this out on the air, because I think it's the best. And I love Shiro as a protagonist, because
Shiro is a really good protagonist, right?
Because my favorite thing about him is that he has zero patience for anything that he does not like. Like,
so
if he's annoyed by something, he will tell you that it is annoying him and that he doesn't care.
It's amazing. I think one of the best things in UBW. There's a bunch of really good things about Shiro in UBW, because it's like Shiro's route to really shine. is the bit, though, when, one, when he basically tells Archer to go fuck himself, but two, when he opens the door and there's rain and he just closes it again.
Yep.
Like, nope, too early to deal with this.
Or the part where it's Sakura, Rin, and Saber all in the same house as him.
Yes.
And he just kind of just falls to
very
the ground.
Dramatically to the floor, and it's just like...
very slowly falls over.
So good.
I just love a character who can hear Archer's tragic backstory, and he can hear how it's directly connected to him.
Right.
Like, everything that happened is in Shiro's future. Like,
right.
And Archer's, like, story is genuinely heartbreaking. Like, it is incredibly, incredibly tragic, and it completely explains why he is the way he is.
Mm-hmm.
And Shiro's response is, I don't really care.
I just don't like you.
Yeah. I understand you went through some crap. Mm-hmm. I just don't like you.
It's so good, right? Like, okay, people give Shiro a lot of shit because Shiro is as dense as a neutron star, as we like to say. But I actually do kind of love the just because you're... What is it? Just because you're right doesn't mean you're correct, or the other way around.
It's just because you're correct doesn't mean you're right. Because what he means is that just because you have the facts and because you are telling me factual truth doesn't mean your actions are justified. Right.
It doesn't mean that you're right about me becoming like you. But I mean, like, it's kind of a catch-22 because the whole reason he doesn't end up like Archer is because Archer went back in time and was just like, hey... I'm going to change the course of events so you don't end up like me. And eventually, in every single route, he kind of readjusts his beliefs and ends up in a better place because of his contact with, like, all of these characters and stuff. And I think that's really beautiful.
Like his response to, like, and that is why I have to kill you. His response is generally just like, alright, well, I won't do that then.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, because Shiro is so hard-headed, I kind of, sometimes it's almost like grating, because you're just like, why don't you understand? Because Shiro's got a very deep sense of, like, survivor's guilt, because, like, part of one of his, like, major traumas is that in order for him to survive the Fuyuki fire, he had to keep walking by people who were, like, crying out for help as they burned to death, right? But the only way he could live was if he kept going while all of these other people needed help. And so he has, like, a major survivor's guilt that he put he put his life over all of those people's, never mind the fact that he was, like, a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, he was a little kid.
He was a kid. There's nothing he could do about it. But, actually, he was younger than that. He was, like, 7 or something like that. Yeah. But, I mean... You know, you internalize those things, and it became such a huge moment of trauma for him that it's why Archer is the way he is. It's the why Shiro is the way he is. And I just like this idea that eventually it's, you know, he can be so hard-headed about this whole idea of, well, my life isn't as important as so-and-so's life. And I just like that he kind of gets beyond that and is like, well, no, I don't think that I am still worth that much, but I still want to keep living and see this future with all of these other people who I love, including, you know, your chosen girlfriend. And I just think that's beautiful. It's funny, because, like, Nasu is kind of a shitty writer, but when Nasu is good, he's really, really good, you know?
Yeah, this dude knows how to build worlds.
Yes, for all of their crazy bullshit.
Yeah, for, no, not just for that, like, because of all this stuff, and because of how deep he goes into all of this stuff, like, this dude is a world-building mastermind.
For sure, it's amazing.
It's just that when you zoom in, he kind of has some problems.
He's got some weirdness. He likes to over-explain things. It is still a porn game, and there are still a lot of weird porny things, and a lot of pandering to otaku, which is another topic altogether. See all of Fate Grand Order in a lot of ways, as much as I enjoy it. But I mean, ultimately, I really like kind of the themes of Fate. I just really I love Fate. It's so weird because I don't know if I would ever, like, really, like, recommend Fate.
Yeah, I would never, like, recommend this to my friends. like, it's kind of like a thing you have to read about on a message board or, like, on Tumblr or something, and then, like, you see a gift set and you're like, I'll check that out. Like, because, like, if you have someone personally recommend it to you, then it's, like, it kind of has, like, a weirdness to it, but if you just kind of stumble upon it, you're like, okay, well, I'll watch this and enjoy it for myself. And then...
You're sucked in and you can't get free.
Yeah.
You're trapped, motherfucker. Welcome to Fate. Because Fate is just really, like... It's really good. It has so many cool things going for it. And I mean, I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface of things I could even explain about Fate. Because there's so much, like, really cool and interesting stuff in it. I love the noble phantasms. I love the different heroic spirits, even if there are way too many gender bends. You know, there are a lot of really cool historical female figures, Nasu, right? You don't have to keep turning everybody into a girl.
Yeah, you can use actual real girls.
Yeah, they actually do exist. I promise.
There were important female figures in the real world. You don't have to turn Frankenstein into a little girl and ruin that for me.
But I do, it's kind of funny, I really love her design, so I'm actually kind of excited for her in Fate Apocrypha, because I just think her design is really good. But, you know, like, I get it. I
didn't want that.
I know you didn't, but
I wanted, like, a big zombie man.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Because I cannot imagine that little girl giving the opening lines of the Frankenstein novel. Like, when the creature goes into his life after being born, I can't imagine a little girl saying that.
Right? I'm really excited for Apocrypha, though. Oh my god. Mostly because we didn't even touch on it, but Mordred is definitely best saber. Like,
Mordred's the best saber, yeah.
Definitely, like, best saber face, for sure. 100%. Like, best girl. She's just the coolest. She's just the coolest character ever. She's crazy, and she has a badass evil Excalibur, and I know it's cliche, but I just love her so much. Yeah, I feel like I could just keep I really honestly think I could just keep talking for like another hour, but I don't want to do that. But I just really like so much about Fate. I think the world is the coolest. Its themes are really interesting when it's not completely batshit. I really like Extra. I just think it is the coolest fucking series. And I will probably have to do another one of these podcasts at some point, because I really enjoy talking, but it won't be for a while.
What we can probably do is once Apocrypha is over, we can do a roundup on that.
Yeah, that'd be good. And I mean, you know, again, Heaven's Feel is coming out this year, and if God is real, maybe we will actually get a simultaneous release, please.
Yeah, when Heaven's Feel comes out, we can do a roundup on that too. So, because like there's stuff worth talking about in all of those.
Hopefully it'll be like Grand Order does so well on the phone that they'll be like, oh well, Fate is super popular in the West. Let's put it out in theaters at almost the same time as in Japan, please.
That would be really nice.
That would be really nice. Or like, you know, it doesn't have to be in October. If it's in like December, I'd be cool with that. You wouldn't hear me complain. I just really want to see Heaven's Feel in theaters because Ufotable is just incredible. And I really want to see that spectacle on a big screen because watching anime movies in theaters is actually a lot of fun. Yeah, I feel like I have more to say and I can't think of it right now, so maybe we should just end it before I start vomiting about all of these other characters.
Yeah, so we can wrap it up there. Like you successfully answered all of my questions, and I feel like I have a much better grasp of this whole story now.
I'm glad. I feel like I went off on a lot of kind of weird little offshoots of stuff, but I'm glad I kind of at least hit like the high points. There's still a lot to talk about. There's all of Gilgamesh's shit, because there's a lot there. Oh my god, Gilgamesh is a whole podcast. Yeah, I mean, there's just, oh boy, because I mean, we didn't talk about Camelot, we didn't talk about the fact that Merlin gave Saber a dick at one point.
Yeah, I mean,
really awkward. I mean, we probably shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah, like we didn't really do like a lot of discussion because this is just, again, me asking for clarification for things that I didn't understand.
Right.
So we can do another Fate podcast about like what I do know, and we can just dive into that whole discussion where we can talk more about the characters and whatnot and all that. And
cool.
probably after Apocrypha comes out, we can do a roundup on that and then do some general discussion and stuff.
Right on. Cool. So yeah. We'll call it here because we're hitting 2 hours. So yeah.
So thanks to Broke for Free for use of our background music. Link to his work in the description. We are on Twitter at thegorgepodcast. We have an email address. You can email us about Fate or about anything at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com.
You can email us and like fact check me because I feel like I probably got something wrong.
Please fact check us because I would love to do like clarifications in the next episode.
Right, that would be awesome. Please do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Also next week we are not doing a podcast, but if you do want to hear me talk about things, I will be streaming Kingdom Hearts 1 with my good friend Mary Rose, who is at Dashing Nerds, who is kind of like our affiliate now. So we are going to get together and we're going to play Kingdom Hearts 1 for a few hours. And we're going to try to turn that into a thing. So that's what's happening. And then, Sarah, you have another podcast, though. What's it about?
Hey, I have another podcast. It's called Big Gay Nerds. It's an LGBT RPG live play podcast where me and a bunch of other rad friends get together and play some various tabletop games. We change the game we're playing once a month. There's a recurring storyline when we go back to Monster Hearts. It is a lot of fun, and you should come listen to us because we always have a good time. We are at... Oh boy. We're on Twitter at BGNcast or BGN Top Podcast. I should know this off the top of my head. I'm really sorry that I don't. We're on Tumblr at Big Gay Nerds. We're on SoundCloud at Big Gay Nerds. Basically just Google us. It'll come up. And give us a listen. So yeah, thanks.
So that'll do it for us. I think this one's pretty obvious. Fuck Shinji.
Oh, fuck Shinji! We didn't even talk about how bad Shinji is!
Yeah.
Damn it! Fuck Shinji for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be our preview for the next Fate cast, which is fuck Shinji.
Fuck Shinji. Good night, everyone.
Good night.